display yet. Go this side. Okay, ready? So this week my presentation is to do with Finland and their education they provide and how other countries should probably adopt it. So just a little background. PISA, which does a survey of all the education systems across the world, regularly ranks Finland as top for reading, literacy, mathematics and science. A couple of graphs here. That one shows that it started in 2000, the system, and it was top of literacy then, and then 3 years later it was still top of maths, and I think it was still top of literacy, but I couldn't find the graph. And in 2006 it was top of all three. So it's not a fluke that they're top, it's been working for a while. And that final graph shows you the last one in 2012, and that has Finland at second, so you'd think it was going down, but the one at the top, South Korea, and the techniques they use aren't, let's say, ethical, because they put their kids through, the kids go through like long days, a lot of pressure on them, and it's not good for their health. So Finland's still regarded as being the top education system. And they do this by providing a relaxed environment for learning. They do this which has been found to be more beneficial. They've done this by making classrooms informal. They've made them informal by a few reasons. Teachers are called by their first name, so instead of saying Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones or whatever, they call them by their first names. So this incorporates like a more relaxed learning, because instead of seeing them as the teacher and us, it's like they're just like one big group. They can all talk. So if you want to ask a question to a teacher, you feel like research by Shearer says that if you have the same name, if you can just call a teacher as like a friend, then you're more likely to ask them, and if you ask a teacher more stuff, you'll learn more. Secondly, they're less strict on rules in Finland. So, they're strict on some rules, but rules that are like pernickety and stuff. Like, if you want to learn about, say if you're like 10 and you want to learn about dinosaurs, the teacher will incorporate it so that you can do that for that day. Because it's been found that if you want to learn something about something that you're interested in, then you'll regain more knowledge than if it was something you just thrust upon and had no interest in. Thirdly, they have no uniforms in these schools. Uniforms have been found to be like, uniforms quash creativity. Because Ash 1956 found that conformity is a damaging aspect in older people, but also in youngsters. Because if everyone's wearing the same thing, they're thinking the same way, they won't learn everything they should, they just learn a specific thing. So by letting them wear what they want, it engages their mind to just be like, oh, I'm an individual, I won't just conform to what everyone else is doing. And these relaxed approaches are beneficial to learners for many reasons, including, flick the slide. They incorporate flexible learning. Okay. The theory on learning is supported by research. It's just put in. Like, say if there was a study, well, actually there is a study there. Habermas 1972 did a study and found that children learn best from two forms of teaching that incorporates this knowledge. System-wide knowledge, which is teaching them skills like how to change a light bulb, how to fix a plug, how to unblock a sink, like practical things that you need in everyday life, and combining this with life world skills, which are knowledge of beliefs, values, how to act, to be courteous, to be generous, all these like valuable skills, and combining these two in a separate system balancing these two creates an optimum learning experience that is beneficial to the children. Right. Finland start their children at school age 7. This, although over here I think the age is, I want to say 5, but I'm not certain, but it is earlier. And by starting them later, because early in life, Gopnik found in 2011 that children learn best through free play, just not being instructed, just let them go out, explore the world, they find out what they want to learn. If they have a teacher telling them what to learn, they won't learn, if anyone was at the last speech, it was mentioned then, but if they're told what to learn, they will just learn that, but if they're let to explore, they'll learn about this, that, the other, which is more beneficial to learn in the long term. Also, Free play increases cognitive, physical, social and emotional development. This is beneficial because if they become more developed before they start school, it means that when they arrive, they'll be fully tuned in and be ready to learn more than if they, say, had the extra 2 years where they didn't develop as well. Go. In Finland, they only have one mandatory exam. This is at the end of secondary school, so it's equivalent to our GCSEs. This, to me, sounds like a genius idea, but there are actual scientific and psychological evidence supporting that this is actually useful as well. Firstly, it creates a fear-free environment, so if you don't have the fear of exams looming, you can just turn up to lessons, you can relax, you can just sit there, take it in like a sponge. And that has been found by pain to be a better way to learn than if you're just sitting there thinking, I have to learn, I have to learn, I have to learn, give me some information, because you get more anxious, you get stressed, that blocks hormones to your brain that are contributed to learning, so being relaxed is more beneficial. Also, teachers set their own assessments, because they will have some tests to know where they are, and by setting their own assessments they can give them feedback, like positive and corrective. So, say if a child is struggling on spelling the word cat, no, longer word, cataracts. The teacher can see how they do it. If they were doing a normal test, they'd be like, oh, he's got it wrong. We don't know how he's getting it wrong, but he's just getting it wrong. But if a teacher marks it themselves, they can go back to him and say, oh, you're spelling it wrong, you're missing out the R. So when they learn, so the next time they spell it, they can get it right. Also, exams are obviously a stressful time of the year. I know we just had exams. I'm sure most of us would have had that period of just, I have to revise, cram, cram, cram. This is just unhealthy. So by reducing this, it reduces on the physical and mental turmoil it puts you through, which is better for learning because you will be feeling pressure. In Finland, they have a no child left behind approach, which is basically, no matter what your ability, you are just put into a class and you're with mixed ability children. So there could be someone who's like A-star student put in with someone who's like a C, or on a C or whatever, and they're both in the same class instead of being split up. The advantages, there are advantages to this. Actually, I'll talk about the disadvantages of splitting them up first. The disadvantages of splitting them up are the people who are low, like they're put in the low group, are denied the chance to learn because the classes move slower, they don't get through the same amount of information as they would in the normal class. It's also bad for the high group because they learn at too quick a pace that they can't comprehend everything they learn, taught even. So they can sit there, they can just be bombarded with information. It goes in, but it doesn't really stay in, and it just sort of washes over, and they don't have comprehension. They sort of know it, but they don't fully know it. Also, by avoiding this mixed ability groups, by avoiding this ability grouping, it stops the Pygmalion effect from happening. This is basically self-fulfilling prophecies of, if you're put in a low group, you end up thinking, oh, I'm not very smart. There's no real point trying, I'm not going to pass, so you just fail. And it's good for high people. I mean, it's good for the high achievers, but for the low achievers, it's got to be a bit demoralising being told, yeah, you can't go with these people because you're not smart enough. And also, by putting them in the same class, it incorporates strategies to learn you learn by teaching someone else. So the high achievers can learn by teaching the low achievers, which will also increase the low achievers' knowledge. Free education. In Finland, you don't have to pay for tuition fees, which will have all the way through from like primary to even universities, it's just free if you're from Finland. Obviously this is good because it reduces the socio-economic divide where poor students normally do worse because they just can't, they turn up to school, they haven't got enough food, they can't learn, but because they're provided free school meals, they can eat what they want, they can drink what they want, so they're happier, they can eat and be merry, and then they can learn more. Also, the high students wouldn't be able to like mock the low ones for not having food or anything, or not be dressed shabbily and stuff, because they're all sort of similar, so it's good for learning because it reduces that as well. Smaller class sizes? Yeah, smaller class sizes. The classes are smaller in Finland, so instead of over here you'd have classes of say 20 to 30, normally about 30. Over there they normally cap them at around 15. this is beneficial obviously because the teacher to student ratio is lower. So if a student's stuck, they put their hand up, teacher's there within like small instance. And in classes where they have bigger classes, say if they got 20 or something, it's not uncommon to have more than one teacher. So as soon as you're in trouble, you can know what you're doing. Instead of having that period where, you must have had that period where you put your hand up and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Then by the time the teacher comes, you forget your problem. This time, if you put your hand up, immediate attention, which is better for learning. Also in Finland, they have top-notch teachers. This is, in Finland, to be qualified as a teacher, you need to have a master's degree, as opposed to over here where I think you just need a 2-1 or 2-2, which seems to me to be pretty low, because that sort of implies that I could be a teacher, which would be horrible. And yeah, and they have, these teachers have 2 hours a week for professional development, so a teacher is taken out of the class and shown these brand new methods of teaching, so that instead of becoming stale and just being like, this is how I teach, I'm just going to do this for 40 years, they learn new tricks, new schemes, they get given technology so that they can deliver the best possible education to children. And this supports Bandura's theory of social learning, that if the model you're looking at is effective, clear and stuff, you will learn more because children look up to models and base their behaviour on them. So if you've got a good model, you're likely to be good yourself. To conclude, I think that all countries should try and implement these ideas because that's all right. Because on that first table, I should have probably pointed out, but the UK were like lagging in about 10th or something, and considering they spend more than Finland on education, that's pretty poor. So they really need to up their game, or up our game, and start using these ideas. And yeah, and that'll be good. And that's it. Any questions here?
With teachers deciding on how they test their students, I think that's really good because I think they know what the students know, so it's a good way to test them. But do you think there's any problems? What problems could you have with teachers setting their criteria?
There could be a problem. Like if you had some teachers who were a bit like they just wanted to see their kids pass, they could set easier tests. But if, say, maybe a head teacher was monitoring it, like having a look, just saying these tests have to be of certain difficulty, then I say that a problem gets avoided. And maybe if a teacher didn't have, well, no, they're really well qualified, but if they perhaps made a mistake, then it could be bad for the children because they learned something wrong. And I think it takes like 3 times longer to unlearn something that you've learned, so that'd be bad. Yeah.
If they're making up their own assessments, how can they be like ranked?
Because they make up their own marking for it as well.
So could that just be
No, they'd mark it like, if you get 60% right, that's like an A or whatever. They're just percentages, I suppose.
So this table is like that came before, is that on like a standard test?
That's on a they've got a system for, I don't know the ins and outs, but...
Right, I was going to say because they've made up their own tests.
No, that was based on like percentage of people who are in employment, percentage of people who leave their final test, like the standardised one with like a good grade, percentage in jobs, not on benefits, doing well, happy. Any more questions? Cool.